I'm gonna wait a second for it to record first. So, hi, welcome back, everybody. Welcome to 2022, first APAC community call of the year. As normal, we are going to do this on a bi-weekly basis, and we do have a very exciting start of the new year. But for today, we're actually going to first start with a little video. So if you can go to the next slide, which is the agenda slide, please. We're going to do some welcome back on 2021 summaries that Patrick did on the Bigger Global Symposium. And then we're going to then talk about the 4 exciting studies that's going to be part of our APAC 2022 goals. And then all the different chapter leads will go in a little bit about their goals. And then after that, we will actually go back and play the video from Patrick about Odysseys Global Goals. And finally, we want to talk a little bit about the next community call, where we're going to do a live CDM workshop, a office hour type of workshop, and how you can register for that. Okay, so without further ado, Jing, can you play the video?
Everybody to 2022. I'm glad to see so many friendly faces here and some newcomer names on our meeting list. Since this is our kickoff meeting for the year, what I'd like to do is take a quick second just to calibrate on where we are and what we've been doing, and then to try to provide some level setting for what I think we can accomplish here in 2022, working together about what we can do and how we can get there together. Odysseys' mission: we are all here because we are here to improve health by empowering a community to collaboratively generate the evidence that promotes better health decisions and better care. And it's this focus on trying to generate reliable evidence that's actually useful that has galvanized a lot of us to be interested and be part of this community and to try to focus on the individual contributions we can make to this kind of greater purpose. For those that are new, we've been trying to describe the different ways in which Odyssey collaborates. And George published a paper last year that highlighted this particular figure. We have many different modes of collaboration. Within the community, we are collaborating on open community data standards. So for those of you who are here because of the OMOP Common Data Model and learning about how to translate your source data into a standardized format, like Melanie introduced with her health systems interest group, this is the place for you. We collaborate on open source development. So for those of you who are interested in developing R packages and other analytic routines to conduct analysis on data, Martijn Schumi leads our Hades work group, and we also develop various web applications to conduct analyses, and this is a great place for you to get engaged here. We conduct methodologic research, so we specifically try to design methodologic experiments to develop and evaluate scientific best practices for how to learn reliably from observational data. And many of you have seen the work that we've done, including work last year to support vaccine safety evaluations. And then we collaborate on clinical evidence generation. So we try to identify questions that we think matter to patients and try to generate evidence across our network of data. And so if any of those topics are of interest to you, even just one of them, then this is the right place for you. We also have the world's largest data network as part of our community. The Odyssey Data Network is set up as a distributed data network with data partners who have agreed to be part of this data network by converting their data into using the Open Community Data Standard, the OMOP CDM, and by applying standardized analysis tools to that data so that they can answer questions. Now, because it's a distributed data network, that means we are not compiling patient-level data together in any sort of way, but rather any organization, anybody who has access to patient-level data can participate in any network study simply by adhering to these community standards and standard tools to run analyses. And the third primary way that we actually collaborate together is by conducting network studies. And the way this works is that we pre-specify a protocol with analysis specifications. Those analysis specifications is codified code using our standardized tools. That code is then shared with the data network. Any data partner can opt in to participate in a study by bringing that code securely within their own firewalls, executing the code against their OMOP Common Data Model instance, and sharing back aggregate summary statistics, no patient level data, but just only the answers to questions. And then we collaborate together to interpret the results and disseminate the findings. And so generically, this is how we've conceived of Odysseys as a community of different ways to collaborate and engage. And for all of you that are new on the call, we encourage you to actively contribute and participate in any of these facets. You don't need to be a data partner to be a meaningful contributor. You don't need to be an expert in methods research or to be a world's best programmer. You can make meaningful contributions throughout this space. And indeed, none of us are expert across all of these areas, but rather we're trying to create a community whereby together we can accomplish important public health goals by generating evidence, by bringing all of these pieces together. Odysseys has grown pretty spectacularly over the last several years. Last year, we highlighted very specific numbers of our collaborators as measured by the number of people who have signed up to Odysseys as a collaborator in our MS Teams environment. Is now over 2,300. And actually, I just looked at our current tally, and it's actually 2,700 collaborators. It's in 74 countries and 21 time zones. We also have the world's largest data network comprised of over 330 data sources who have voluntarily told us that they are indeed implemented the OMOP Common Data Model and are using it for their purposes. That's covering over 280 electronic health record systems and 28 claims data sets in 34 different countries, collectively representing over 11% of the world's population in data. Now, these are impressive tallies, and I think it's only going to grow continuously as we evolve as a community. But we're now kind of reaching this tipping point where we need to stop being impressed with what's possible and start translating what we now have into real accomplishments. Instead of being proud of the fact that we've got 2,000 people that have raised their hands to say, I want to do something, we need to think about what our obligation is now that we have 2,000 people raising their hands saying, let's do something together. And if we've got 10% of the world's data standardized, we need to start thinking about what our responsibility is as a community to generate evidence to improve patient care, given that we have this opportunity in front of us. So last year was another banner year for the Odysseys community. We did a lot of great work. As Craig highlighted in the Odysseys newsletter that was released at the end of the year, I definitely encourage you all to take a look at it if you didn't. We tried to highlight some of the highlights that many of the community had voted for as their top accomplishment of 2021. We had our Odysseys 2021 Global Symposium where work was showcased from around the world. We conducted important vaccine safety methods research to try to develop and evaluate best practices for how to evaluate the COVID-19 vaccines. We hosted the reproducibility challenge and brought people together to think about what it actually means to do reproducible research. We held a Hades unit testathon to actually harden the open source software that we've been working on. We released OMOP Common Data Model version 5.4 as the community data standard that we will be applying across all data partners across our community this year to try to get everybody on the same common platform so that we can really unlock the value of the data we have. We've seen tremendous progress across our Eden initiative, with over 143 data partners signed on to transform their data to the OMOP Common Data Model, 43 small and medium enterprise companies now certified to actually train anybody around the world in how to develop their OMOP Common Data Model, stand up the Odysseys tools, and conduct studies. We published Our Journey, our book that summarizes our community and activities. The Pioneer Initiative held a prostate cancer study-a-thon, which made great progress, showing a kind of a new way to do collaborative research. We made good progress on our Legend Initiative, and under Mark Suchard's leadership, made really good progress in thinking about how we can apply the Legend principles as had previously been applied for depression and hypertension, now being applied to type 2 diabetes. We held the OHDSI APAC symposium, and we saw great work coming from across the Asia Pacific region. We had really important work that supported regulatory decisions associated with the COVID-19 vaccines as it related to characterizing the background rates of adverse events of special interest and understanding what it means to use our international data network to understand incidents of adverse events. And we were also able to highlight and celebrate the accomplishments of key contributors across our community, and the Titan Awards was a great way to recognize the great work that has been done across our community. So we had a lot to be really proud of for 2021. The question we have today.
All righty, we're going to pause there because we don't want to go into what we're going to accomplish as a team yet for the global side. Ooh, I look frozen. Great. Before we go to what globally the global community wants to accomplish, we want to talk about what Asia Pacific wants to accomplish, right? So Jing, if you can pull up the slides. On the Asia Pacific side, we decided last year during the symposium that this year our goal is to focus on the 4 studies that we chose during the symposium based on popular demand of folks of studies, right? So here you can see, you can put this in slide mode, please. It's a little small. These are the 4 studies that we chose as a group. So the first one is by Professor Yu, characterization of non-communicable disease, English, right? Second one is, I believe, from the University of Hong Kong. We got the comparison of mortality, morbidity, and healthcare resource utilization between patients with and without a diagnosis of COVID-19. Third one is by Nicole, real world safety of treatment for multiple MS. And then the last one, but not the least, actually quite important, is Professor Kim talking about quality assessment of CDM databases across the Asia Pacific network. Last year, at the end of the year, we asked folks to sign up for which ones that they have an interest in. And this year, we're going to actually kick them off starting probably in February-ish. And to prepare for that, what we have actually done is asked every country to bring on some additional help. We're calling, I call them liaisons, or we can call them, right, the next rising stars in every country. We would like these folks to come and help us coordinate these studies and help us with these studies. And what we've also called upon, which is why I see Mark and Patrick here, is on the global community to help us in Asia Pacific with these studies as well. So those are targets and goals that we want to be able to do. So the next steps here actually is what we're going to do is have a kickoff call with the liaisons to talk about what it is our expectation is. And then we also are going to have all of these set up in teams, Odyssey teams. If you don't have Odyssey teams, I suggest you please go sign up for Odyssey teams. And it's going to be inside the OHDSI APAC thread, which is where we start this chat from, or this, not chat, I should say, where we start this meeting from. You can see here, we already have folks who have created the channels. So this is the temporal characterization one. And you see Nicole has created the MS one. This is where we're gonna put all of the files or any of the chatting that goes on, but also starting next month, what we would like to do is actually start having kickoff meetings. So if you guys have signed up, please look forward to getting an email invitation to the kickoff meetings once we get the logistics a little bit sorted at the end of this month. So that is really our objective from a OHDSI APAC's point of view. What I'm going to do is now turn it over to the chapter leaders to have them really provide a bit of an overview of what their goals within each chapter is. So do we have a volunteer to go first, or shall I just call you guys by names? Chan, please. You're on mute.
now you can hear my voice.
Yep. Yep.
So here are the action items of Korean chapter of Odyssey. So first of all, we'd like to expand truly machine actionable CDM network. You might know that we do have the research free zone and the feeder net, kind of the Korean version of CDM network. In the research free zone, we share the IRB, so you don't need to individual IRB approval from individual institutions, which is really challenging for collaborative research. So that's why we'd like to expand this free zones between the institutions, and and of course we want to connect this research network to the OHDSI APAC network. Actually, it's already has been connected, and we want to build more special purpose small size CDMs. So, such as we do have the CDM specified for asthma to include biomarkers for asthma patients with asthma. So, like that, we want to build some more use cases for small size CDMs for specific topics. And we will build kind of near real-time CDM. So on a monthly or quarterly or daily batch, it will be operated by monthly or daily batch. These will construct infrastructure of nationwide pragmatic clinical trial, which is similar to PICORNet CDM network does in America. And it can be served as an infectious disease surveillance system based on CDM network in Korea. Finally, I want to bring more visitors to OHDSI APAC, and I will try to do it in this year as I did in the last year too. Thanks, and I hope you to have a nice year too.
Awesome, thank you. Anyone got any questions for Chan before we move on to the next leader? Cool. I see Jason on my view. So Jason, you want to go next?
You told me?
Yeah, just a high level of the goals for Taiwan, yes.
Okay, let me share my screen.
Awesome, thank you.
Can you see the slides?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, here are the members in our office, including Mark, Alex, Soli, Fong, Yuda, Benson, and Jeannie. I think most of them are here in our join our meeting today. And here are our visions, because in 2021 we have already created our website, and then this year the first thing is to apply for the formal organization about Odyssey Taiwan, and so that we can recruit more members from other hospitals in other parts. So until now, we have already attracted around 30 members in Odyssey Taiwan from not only Taipei Medical University but other hospitals. And here are the visions. Number one, to get involved in all Odyssey activities, not only APAC but also global one. And the second one, to join in all international research projects if we think our database are available to run the studies. And then the third one, to initiate many cross-national research projects, including at least 3. The first one is actually that is our goal for 2021, but we haven't finished the protocol for that, so we need to catch up to finish that first, which is about the target therapy and the immunotherapy of lung cancer, and choose the comparative effectiveness and safety. The second one is about the complications of type 2 diabetes patient led by phone. And the third one is safety of target therapy for cancer treatment led by UDA. So we have to we expect to finish the protocol of these three projects and to call for other members in order to join us from other countries. So welcome if you are interested in these topics. And I especially hope the people from the other countries from like Korea and Singapore or others. Thanks.
Amazing goals. Anybody got any questions for Jason? Nicole, I see you next on my little panel of faces. So Nicole, you want to go next?
I can. I'll just share my screen. Sorry, apologies.
We see your PPT.
Okay, great. So here are our goals for Odysseys Australia. I guess the important thing for us as a community here in Australia is to try to translate as many data sets as we can. Unfortunately, in Australia, we have a very segmented healthcare system, and many of the data on our interactions with health are in different locations due to funding arrangements. So one of the visions we have here in Australia is really try to broaden the breadth of data that we have available to us in OMOP CDM. So we've already started looking at some secondary care databases, so hospital databases, particularly in Queensland, and also looking at some primary care data sets. But we're really trying to now focus on trying to get national claims data where possible, so that we can contribute to international network studies. So our medication data is held by the national government, whereas our hospital data is state by state. So we're really focusing now on trying to join up that nationally held data and the state-based data so that we have a much more broader representation of patients who we can access data on. So we have recently done a piece of work surveying the data linkage units across each of the states, and looking at their availability to be able to translate to a CDM. We've been planning a survey to look at our clinical registries here in Australia and whether there's any possibility for those registries who quite often have linked data to MBS, our Medicare and our pharmaceutical data, and whether they can be potentially OMOP'd as well. And a focus for the Australian chapter is to really try to help coordinate Australian-specific ETL, so Australian-specific vocabulary where necessary, sharing of our mappings, and hopefully this will all come together with the help of some of the chapter liaisons as well. The second goal for us is to increase our participation in the community. We have, for the last year and a bit, maybe 2 years, have had about 2 to 3 webinars per year. Now they have been as requested from the community, or whether a new paper has come out and we've asked the authors to present on their work. But what we would like to do this year is really have a standard meeting agenda and maybe meet once a month as a community to sort of develop that network here in Australia. I would also like to shout out to anybody on the call to participate in the Eastern Hemisphere meetings that Odyssey runs as well. And it's another great way for us to get involved in the Odyssey community. So I'll really start advertising that a lot more aggressively here in Australia, and please come along to those meetings. They're amazing opportunities to learn from, you know, the leaders in the community about new methodologies, studies that are going on in the population level prediction and patient level, I said that the wrong way, patient level prediction and population level estimation. So come along to those. We'll make sure that they're advertised. So our regular meetings, we'll talk about data quality, ETLs, network study, and particularly a focus on education this year, really getting the community up to speed. In terms of our network studies, we've been involved in many network studies, but I really want to try to improve our participation, and that really will flow from our ability to translate our data here in Australia into the OMOP CDM. It will give us much more opportunity to be involved in those studies. And as you heard, we're leading the OHDSI APAC. I've called it Telemus study, who is a character in the OHDSI story. So it's a bit of a stretch, that acronym, but it'll work. So please join that. I did notice that there's lots of OHDSI Australia participation in each of the network studies. So that's really great. And if you want to be involved, join up and we'll get them kicked off. So that's us. Thanks, Mary.
Thank you. Any questions for Australia? Morning, you're next on my list because again, I'm going like in this order across my screen. Hua doesn't have his picture, so that's why Hua's probably is going to go last.
Oops, have I stopped sharing?
No, Nicole, you're still sharing.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, hi everyone. Morning here. Let me try to share. Although Microsoft team has been giving me this rotating circle at the moment. Okay, never mind. So yeah. Anyway, I just have 2 slides. So hi, I'm Dr. Feng, or you can just call me Morning here. I'm the chapter leader for Singapore. So yeah, Singapore chapter is a relatively new chapter. So we are really happy and glad to join the family and able to learn from the footsteps from a lot of our seniors in the group. And for next year, very quickly, our goals are mainly focusing in 2 areas. One on clinical research. Of course, we will be doing our best to participate in all 4 APAC studies. And in addition to our own APAC studies, we are already involved in the global diabetes legend study as well. And our team will continue to look around, check on the global forums and see whether there's any other global legend studies that we may participate in. With that chance, maybe I would like to ping quickly Yu Cheng and Yizhi, who are the liaison personnel from Singapore, to say hi to everyone. Yu Cheng.
Hello.
That's all. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Welcome.
Yeah. A quick introduction of yourself. They are fairly new to the family. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, that's wonderful. Please do introduce yourselves.
Hello everyone. Happy New Year. I'm Yu Chen, the first year PhD at NUS and working with Professor Feng. Nice to meet you guys here, and I think I'm very happy to join the big APAC company.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Welcome.
And Yizhi, yes, please.
Hello everyone. I'm a research assistant from Prof. Morning's lab, and I'm very glad and excited to join this community, and I hope to make a lot of contribution this year. And Happy New Year.
Go.
Welcome.
Yeah, especially for our APAC study leaders. These are the 2 young folks that you guys can squeeze anything out of them. So you know who you are bullying next time. But related to them, because both of them are fairly new to the OHDSI family and new to OMOP as well. And the next big focus for our chapter is talent building. Although we are new, the good news is that we managed to convince many healthcare institutes, including our Ministry of Health, to use OMOP CDM as kind of the standard to standardize all the clinical data in Singapore. However, we face a huge bottleneck is that in Singapore, we only have literally a handful probably even less than my 5 fingers, of people who are experienced or trained to do ETLs for OMOP. I've been talking to the global team and more about this. Probably it's a very Singaporean thing. We like certificates. I've been keep asking, like, do we have a certified, not just about the certificate, but a formal, rather than workshops and things, a more formal, like a few weeks or a couple of weeks kind of trainings, even a paid courses. I think a lot of our partners are happy to send some of the engineering to join such a courses, right?
So
and
there is a
course,
program that is
okay.
actually being built from the Northeastern Institution to actually do actual certifications, or all the way, I think, to a degree as well.
Oh.
So yes, they just I think they did their first class this past week, if I didn't remember wrong. So I will connect you with them.
Awesome, awesome. And they do accept like overseas students that.
Yeah, it's all virtual.
Okay, okay, fantastic, fantastic. Okay, yeah. So those are the focus for Singapore chapter, and looking forward to the workshop in the next APAC meeting. As mentioned, for example, some of our collaborators from our Singapore Agency for Science and Technology Associate, A-Star Mukesh is here. His team is very eager to learn from the workshop and ask some questions. And thank you, guys. Let's hope that have a great year altogether.
And then Patrick also posted that in the Eden Academy, there's also courses there, and there's SME certifications there too. So you can also look at the Eden Academy. That's on the Odyssey website.
Okay.
So
that's it. Thanks.
So yeah, but yeah. All right, I see Hua.
Sure, let me just share my screen. Hold on just 1 second. Can you see my screen?
Yes, it's coming.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right, finally. I don't know why it's so slow, probably the network. So Happy New Year, everyone. So my name is Hua Xu. I'm one of the 4 co-chair of the Odyssey China chapter, together with Dr. Lei Liu, Hui Lu, and Yi Zhou. So this is a very simple goals for the 2022 of the China chapter. Each of the co-chair actually lead one of this aspect. The first one is we're really still developing China-specific resources. For example, we are mapping Chinese ICD-10 to SNOMED, and we are working on the 6 digits now. Hopefully we can finish it today. We have actually 5 volunteers actually working on this. So the second part is more about, we always say we want to do more clinical studies using the converted data, but it's kind of become a little bit challenging in China because one is a limited data set we convert to OMAP. We have about 5-6 hospital or data networks in China, but study across all different sites become a little bit challenging because of the authorship or other issues. So we participate in APAC hypertension study, so hopefully it will be published this year. And the Hong Kong University team is actually lead the COVID 2022 APAC study. So we'll hopefully we'll have more teams from China to participate. And we are proposing we should start another study within China across multiple sites. So let's see if we can reach that goal. And on the training side, Dr. Zhou is leading it. So we're talking about more regular training meetings, like a bi-monthly kind of training meeting. Another thing is also about the Odyssey book. We have a Chinese version, and we're also developing a QA collection for each chapter. So help people to really start using the book and do a lot of practice on the simulated data or to get familiar with Odyssey tools using those QA collections we're going to release. I think that's it. Thanks.
Wonderful. Anybody got any questions on any of our goals, either from the Asia Pacific as a whole with the studies that we're doing and building the next leaders in Odyssey, right, through the liaison program, or any of the chapter goals that all the different leaders have talked about. Anybody got any questions or comments that they wish to talk about before we move on to the next one? Okay, Jing, can you pull up the next slide, please? So for the next, so in theme with getting our goals and making sure, right, we can accomplish our goals, one of the things we do want to start doing more are either workshops or actual study-a-thons, not study-a-thons, more like tutorials to help make it to our goals of the 4 studies. And, you know, I hear Australia talking about conversions. We hear Singapore talking about, you know, conversions, right? So what we would like to propose, or we're proposing here in the next community call, a Odyssey CDM workshop. And this will involve the leader of Odyssey, the CDM working group, Claire. She has volunteered to come to this particular meeting to treat this as a workshop. So what we need you guys to do, it's almost like office hours. So basically anybody can come in with any ETL related question that they have, and we would basically offer our services for free, right? So there is a form that you can sign up for already. So this is the form that you sign up. We need to know your name, your email address, the institution, what area you're interested in, and then what the specific question or specific topic you want us to address. The reason for this is it allows us to better coordinate the experts that are coming in, as well as we want to know how many people are interested so that we can organize how many experts to bring along. So for example, it's only 4 people, we only need 1 expert to come along, right? But if we get 20 or so and we got like 20 questions, that's not gonna be enough for an hour. So then we would do breakout rooms and try to schedule them accordingly. So if you guys have an interest, please fill out this form. We will post this form in the link as in the chat, as well as send it out in an email to everybody. And please sign up so that we can better coordinate this. So looking forward to that as the next community call. Anybody got any questions on that?
Hey Mui, it's Nicole. I just wanted to quickly shout out that if people haven't already signed up to Odyssey Teams account, I've just got an email about how to do that. It's worth just mentioning, go onto the Odyssey website, odyssey.org, and up the top there you'll see how to join MS Teams and Work Groups tab. So just click on that, fill out the form, join the work groups you're interested in, and get yourself sort of activated in the community that way. So just wanted to mention
Thank you. So like she says, like Nicole says, you can come here. It says how to join teams. So odyssey.org, right? Very simple website to go to. Here, how to join our Teams environment. Pick the working group you want and sign up. Most of our activities that we're doing in Asia Pacific, when it comes to the studies, the workshops, or tutorials, they will be in Odyssey Teams. So it is actually quite vital that you do sign up. All the chatting, all the communication, we are, for all the 4 studies that we're talking about, they will be inside Odyssey Teams. So please sign up, pick Odyssey APAC as one of the team environments you want to join, and you will be added to our Odyssey APAC environment. Thank you, Nicole. And another comment that I do want to address that, you know, Nicole, that you mentioned, and I know Patrick will be addressing a little bit of this in the next section of the recording that we're going to play, is the working groups. I totally agree that, you know, we should, folks on the site should listen to join the Eastern one, but also if you have a chance, listen to the Western ones as well, right? The working groups, a lot of them, they try to make it both Eastern and Western, or they have recordings that you can listen to, as well as Teams channels that you can go into to communicate there. You learn a lot from those, as well as the community call that Craig has every week. But we will also, as an effort to respond to that, what I'm going to go get with Craig and probably Nicole is the list of all the working groups and when they happen, so that we can have a list for you guys to reference and be able to find them when you want. I know there's a website that's out there, but I don't want to steal the thunder from Patrick's recording. even though Patrick's here and he could do it live.
Yeah, there, as an advertisement, there is a medical imaging work group too in Odyssey, and that work group actually we have that work group at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Korean time bi-weekly. So it's really great for Asian people. So please come and join. And you can see if you join the medical image work group team, then you can see the every meeting record and the note. It's relatively fresh and new teams, so you don't mind. Please don't mind to join that team.
And I know on the Asia side, there's lots of medical images and medical imaging here, because I know, especially like the last time I was working with one of our Chinese partners, that is actually one of the biggest questions they brought up. How do we store this information, right? How do we even record if we don't even store the image, but how do we record that information? Because it's very different than our measurement table. So I hope you guys do find that of a great interest, and it would be a great addition to being able to add more information into the CDM model. So yeah. Awesome. Jing, does anybody have any last questions before we go ahead and continue the video? All right, Jing, I'm handing it over to you.
Sounds good.
There's no voice, Jing.
Yeah, I can hear.
I'm sorry about that. Let me do that again.
And with the fact that we kind of ran long, I don't think we can play the whole video here, but we're going to play as much as we can. And then just so if you guys are interested in hearing the rest, please go visit the OHDSI Community website because the whole thing is there.
You're going to see a question that will pop up. You can do this on your laptop or on your phone or whatever you want. The question is, what should we accomplish together in 2022? And I really do want to hear from all of you. I'd like for you to post in your feedback. Also review inputs that others have entered in. You can upvote or downvote as you see accordingly. And while you're getting there, I'm going to provide a passionate plea for my reflections over the holiday season and try to be maybe a little bit deliberately provocative about why I think the way we do research right now is kind of stupid, and how we need to come up with a better approach to doing research that I believe Odysseys is well equipped to tackle. So I see Craig posted the chat there. I'm gonna hope that you guys are getting in. I see now at least one other person has posted something in there, so I'm gonna keep going there. There's one post that I posted in there, and it said, develop a system to generate evidence that characterizes disease and treatment utilization, estimates the effects of medical interventions, and predicts outcomes for patients within a network of observational health databases. And I'm gonna, I entered that one in as my own seed into this chat. You're welcome to up or downvote that as you see fit, but I'm gonna give you my own personal argument for why I think that this could be a particular important priority for us. So we've used this slide many times, including in the book of Odyssey, to talk about the convoluted journey from data to evidence. That right now, it is very much a bespoke journey. Somebody cobbles their way through some windy path from having access to data to going through some process of manipulating that data, coming up with some sort of analysis, performing some analysis, trying to write it up into some sort of paper, putting it out there, calling it evidence, and then having some sort of debates about that one way or the other. And part of the reason we're all together as a community is that we recognize that all of us go through this journey every day, all of us who are in this observational research space, and it's a painful, hard process. And we're not very good at it, frankly. We're slow, we're not reproducible, and many people call to question whether or not actually the evidence we generate is truly could be considered reliable. Now, I've been reflecting a lot about like what are the problems and what are about some of the solutions about this. And one of the things that kind of hit me to the eyes as I was reading some science in some other spaces was thinking about the process that we follow to do observational research today, and some of the things that might actually on the surface from other domains just be considered kind of crazy. So I'm going to argue that the current status quo in generating in observational research makes it challenging, if not almost impossible, to actually build trust in the evidence. And I'm particularly here talking about where I think is Odysseys' sweet spot, which is conducting non-interventional studies, retrospective analysis of existing observational data. So there's a database that already sits out there. George is sitting on the Columbia University Medical Center data set, or Christian has access to the IQVIA data, or anybody at any institution already has data sitting there. And so the data is available to be unlocked. And yet we conduct research in a very prospective manner. We start by writing a protocol. Sometimes, some of you guys write protocols. Many of you don't actually write protocols. Some of you are obligated and begrudgingly write protocols. Some of you like to write protocols. Some of you hate to write protocols. Many of you don't write protocols. But at least in theory, the idea of a protocol is to pre-specify what you are going to do in your analysis. Now, this idea of writing a protocol is not universally accepted within our field. And I've been thinking about it because it bothers me. I personally have to write protocols for all the work I do. I don't really like it, but I appreciate the value of pre-specification. But I've been trying to understand, why am I so bothered by this process? And I think I at least have a conception of why this would be. Because what I have to do up front is I have to write a document that says, when I get to the data, I hope the data will have the following pieces of information of sufficient quality. And if the data is of sufficient quality and adequately well represented, then I think what I'll do is create a phenotype definition that might find me the appropriate exposures and outcomes of interest. And if those phenotypes are of acceptable operating characteristics, then I think what I'll do is design a particular analysis that might produce unbiased information. And if all those places hold up, then I will have an answer that I actually think would be reliable. And then in that document, I'm going to write a limitation section and say, but all of those assumptions that are untestable assumptions could fall over, and I'm going to have to iterate a whole bunch of other times. And so I'm going to impose an awful lot of subjective belief about what I think might happen in this prospective look into the future about what will happen when I start doing my research. But remember, the data is already in my hand. So this idea that I'm going to speculate about what will happen when I already have the data is a little bit silly. But this subjective idea that I'm going to come up with something right to do and I'm going to write it in a protocol is where many of us have to start. Some of you all who get away without writing protocols just do this in your head, I suppose. Now, some of us have an even bigger hurdle to have, which is we have to have other people review our protocols. So in addition to my subjectivity about my beliefs about what might happen with the data, what might happen with the phenotypes, what might happen with the analyses, I got to then give this human English free text document to some other human who's then going to impose their own subjectivity to the process. And they're going to decide what do they think is going to happen to the data, what do they think is going to happen to the phenotypes, what do they think is going to happen to the analyses, and then they're going to opine on their own opinions about this proposal. And you're going to go round and round speculating and guessing about what's going to happen in the future. And only after you go through that process, if you guys bother to write protocols, which many of you don't, then you get to go through the process of curating the data. You get access to the data, you extract out the relevant information that you need. You go through the process of selecting your cohorts, defining your phenotypes, and thinking about the definitions that you want to apply. You implement some sort of analyses that are going to generate the summary statistics that you're interested in. And after you've followed this pre-specified approach, curated the data, created the cohorts, implemented the analyses. Then you're going to disseminate the evidence. And at that point, you give a English free text document called a publication to some third human or a set of humans who are then going to read the information that you provided, and they're going to ask a question, which is this evidence reliable? And when you hand that document to those reviewers, they are already biased because you have not only given them the what you did, the method section of your publication, but you've given them the results. You've told them the answer to the question that you thought you would have said. And at that point, only after you're done with the process, does this reviewer actually ask the question, well, did you ask the right question? Did you follow the right steps? And do I actually trust the answer that you provided? All with full sight of what that answer actually is. And there's problems that at that last step of the process that a reviewer legitimately could have. There are methodologic concerns. So they may be concerned about the fact that your methods may be biased. So your protocol assumed that you had some unbiased approach, but had you actually proved that that was true? There could be concerns about measurement error in your phenotypes. Your protocol said that you hoped that you were going to have good operating characteristics, but had you proved that? There could be methodologic concerns about data quality. Your protocol say we hope that we've got good enough data quality standards, but had you proved that? And then there's also technical concerns that a reviewer should be legitimately concerned about, and I'd actually assert isn't concerned enough. There are concerns like, is the programming code actually correct? Is the logic for your phenotype actually correct? Is your ETL that transformed the data, manipulated in whatever form, is that actually correct? So there's legitimate questions about, does the study actually provide an unbiased estimate? Are the findings generalizable to the population? Those are scientific questions. But then there's also very real questions about, can a study be fully populated, fully reproduced? And does an analysis actually do what the protocol said it was going to do in the first place? And many of you got to participate in our reproducibility challenge last year, where we went through this process and revealed that this process, if we go through this bespoke, manual, custom, step-by-step process, it is nearly impossible for us to actually faithfully follow this process and get objectively correct, reproducible, consistent results. And so the reason why I suggest that we need to think about developing a system is because I think we actually have to think much, much harder about this process and try to get away from humans making subjective guesses about what might be right, and then humans making subjective guesses about why what's right is wrong, and instead think about objective criteria that we can consistently apply reproducibly across the questions we want to answer to generate valid evidence. And I think that this is actually the sweet spot of where Odyssey has been and can collaborate together. I think that the solution to building trust in real-world evidence is about building systems that consistently have defined inputs and defined outputs that can be evaluated objectively a priori, so that there is no bias and subjectivity in the process of interpretation. Such a process would basically require that a priori you are deciding on the set of research questions that one is defining, whether it be one question about one exposure and one outcome, or something like what Mark is leading with Legend type 2 diabetes, where we're taking a set of questions to study the comparative safety and effectiveness of diabetes treatments. Whatever the space of research questions are, we need to develop objective criteria to evaluate data quality, to decide on objective pass-fail decision criteria to decide a database is or is not suitable for a particular question. And for those that are suitable, we need to go through an objective process to develop and evaluate phenotypes, to have objective go, no-go decisions about which outcomes and exposures can or cannot be reliably studied across our databases. And for those that pass that, we need to have objective criteria to evaluate the reliability of our analysis. We need to prove that our methods are unbiased, that our methods actually produce operating characteristics that are acceptable. And if they do, only at that point should we be at the point where we are confident in generating results. And so if you are like me in a space where you are obligated to write a protocol, I would assert that what I'm describing here isn't necessarily revolutionary. I'm simply saying, instead of writing your protocol at the start of the process, why don't we write the protocol at the end of the process when you're not guessing about what's going to happen with your data, you're not guessing about what's going to happen with your phenotypes, you're not guessing about what's going to happen with your analysis, but instead you have a system that is proven that those elements are going to be sufficient. And at that point, if you have a protocol in place that describes that process, that protocol cannot just be a one-off activity of a meandering path to get to an answer of a question, but actually it can be a standard operating procedure of a system that could be executed faithfully across any range of research questions, whether that be one question of one exposure and one outcome of interest, or whether we were to think about the domain of actually trying to develop an active safety surveillance across all medical products and all adverse events of interest. The point here is that a systematic approach to characterizing data, characterizing diseases, estimating effects, predicting outcomes for patients is something that we are well equipped to do within this OHDSI community, but only if we bring a lot of the bits and pieces that we have put together as a community and bring them together into a system. Right now, we've got really tremendous work and processes that we are following. But right now we've got, it feels like going up to Catherine's playroom right now, where there's a box of Legos scattered across the ground. I know somebody could build something good with them, but right now it just hurts my feet every time I walk into her playroom. So I'm going to make a passionate argument that one thing I'd like to work on in 2022 is to think about how we can bring some systems approaches to generate evidence, to learn from the examples that we've previously done in our legend studies, to continue to support Mark and the team on our legend type 2 diabetes, but also to extend that even further to think about how we can take a more systematic approach to our open source development and to our clinical evidence generation in everything that we do. Whether that be you're particularly interested in the safety or comparative effectiveness of a particular disease area or particular products, this is something that I think we all could actually collaborate on together. So,
awesome. We're gonna start there. Because it's almost time. But ching. What does that mean? Okay, no more reflection, no more echo. But like there is actually more to watch on that, especially if you guys go and watch the remaining portion of it. Patrick talks about the working groups and where they are in the OHDSI website, as well as an OHDSI calendar that he showcases of some of the events that are going on. There was one, I don't know if everybody is aware, but there is a European symposium that was originally in March, but it has been rescheduled to June. So it's not too late to sign up for that. They are trying to make it in person, right? And on the calendar, it also actually talks about our Asia Pacific Symposium as well, but that's a little further down the road. So we'll wait until probably June to even start talking about the symposium for the Asia Pacific side. So I just want to end it with thank you very much for everybody joining us. And we really look forward to actually a wonderful and exciting year in 2022. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.